the person who had his hand cut by a circular saw in Sophomore Musical. Oh, that guy. Yeah. The last show that we did, my story ran a little bit long, so they told me to cut it short, but I mean, I told them I'd already tried that, and that's why I'm up here. Basically, I'm just going to tell you straight from my mouth, the uncut version. And I'm sorry. Just clear up any rumors or anything. Basically, we were working on Sophomore Musical. I was behind the large curtain in Doddridge Holland, and we were ripping 8-foot boards in half with a circular saw. Now, previous Sophomore musicals have ruined it for the rest of us by wantonly destroying things like tools and equipment and random doors that they kicked in because they couldn't find keys and whatnot. So we had to use whatever tools we could come by. So Coach Pick loaned us his set of tools, and the saw was a circular saw. And we were ripping 8-foot boards in half, and you should be using a table saw for that, because pushing the blade, or the wood through the blade away from you is inherently safer than carrying a spinning blade of death. And, but we may do, and I'm pretty adept with tools. I've been, working in my dad's workshop ever since I was a wee tot. So, I was doing just fine, and then I remembered, oh yeah, kindergarten teachers tell you you're supposed to share. So I was, first disclaimer, I'm like, this particular person feels horribly to this day about what happened, and so no names will be used, basically. Anyway, dear friend, would you like to use the circular saw to cut these boards? And she said, why, yes, of course I would. And so I gave her the circular saw. Now, the trouble with cutting 8-foot boards that are only an inch thick is that when you get down to, a couple of feet out, the ends start flopping around and jumping on the sawhorses, and it's not safe for the person using the saw. So, to keep dear friend safe, and against my greater, better judgment, I put my hand on the end of the wood to keep it from flopping around. And if you use tools, you know that that's a really stupid thing to do. But, I mean, it was chivalry, because I'm a gentleman and I'm awesome that way. Thank you. I put it there, and she was fine. Got through 2 or 3 boards, and then she tripped on the cord of the table saw, or the circular saw. And being the circular saw, spinning, the blade spins backwards and cuts the wood from underneath. It lifted up just enough that the blade caught on the wood and kicked back and swung on her arm like a pendulum, and my hand was there. So, have you ever jammed your fingers and you just sort of grab them and you do that like hop around in a circle and you're just like hopping and people, oh, what's wrong? And it's sort of funny. I mean, I did one of those. So nobody really knew how bad it was until I started. Well, have you seen A Christmas Story where Ralphie's helping his dad change a tire? So yeah, only I didn't say fudge. I said, the F dash dash, mother of all swear words. And I said it loud and several times. Several times. And so I'm screaming bloody murder, telling people to call 911. And while I'm holding my hand, I heard later that Sarah Matthews, our class sponsor, is standing out front. And she's hearing me screaming obscenities. And she's, that's not funny, guys. I mean, I didn't think it was funny. But, so I'm holding my hand, and I remember thinking, the first thought that went through my head, no matter, just a split second, was, of course, this is me, and this is my luck. Why would it be anybody else? And my second thought was, no, these things don't actually happen to people. Saws don't cut people's hands. And then the third thought was, oh gosh, I can feel the bones in my hand. And I'm screaming and screaming, and finally Nathaniel Glass runs up on stage, and he's an EMT, so he grabbed me around about basically my elbow and slowed circulation so that I wouldn't be bleeding like crazy. And I sat down in a chair and waited for help to arrive. And the first person that came was a Wilmore cop. And I'm not saying anything against them, but it's just, he comes in, I'm gonna need to take a look at that. And I'm sitting there, you know, holding my freaking hand together, and I'm like, okay, dude, like, you're not a doctor. I mean, I had this all go through my hand. I can assure you, it's not a Band-Aid fixable kind of thing. But, you know, I'm gonna need to see that. So you know, I'm holding it together, and I got the gumption to take my hand away, and he's like, yeah, that's pretty bad. So, you know, thanks. Wasn't sure, but so somebody put a rag on it and they're holding it, you know, with all the pressure they can, and I'm fisting around in my pocket for my phone with my bloody hand. It's just disgusting, and you know, eventually, you know, we called my dad and let him know what was going on, and I think the cop talked to him for a while, and Coach Pick talked to him for a while, and it might have been a half hour later before the ambulance arrived, because you know the roads around Wilmore are just so wonderfully paved. And it was the middle of winter, and I'm wearing a t-shirt and jeans because I'm working inside with power tools, and I'm hot and sweaty, and it's snowing outside, and it's in the middle of the night. It was like 11 o'clock at night, and the deck outside of Dodger Holland, if you've ever walked on it, is bad enough when it's dry, let alone covered in ice. So they couldn't get a gurney up into the building, so I had to be carried like a litter on the chair outside into the snow in my t-shirt, holding my hand together, and transported from there into the gurney, then into the ambulance, and then we took off. And the only thing I really remember about the ambulance ride is not feeling any pain just because of the sheer amount of adrenaline running through me, until they told me that they couldn't give me any pain meds because they needed full nervous response from your fingertips. And I thought that was nonsense, because, you know, here I am with my fingers hanging off, but, you know, that's fine, I'm a man, I can handle it, I guess. And the only thing that I think my girlfriend remembers about, or my girlfriend at the time remembers about it, is I don't know why that's funny. She was annoyed because we couldn't play padiddle, and all of the, she like saw 30 of them on the way, and she couldn't tap any of them because she didn't think the ambulance driver would play with her. So finally we got to the hospital, and you know, I'm getting stabilized and whatnot, and Micah Buckle is there with me, and you know, he was studying pre-med at the time, so he's sitting there and he's like, can I watch? When they do the surgery, can I watch? I'm like, dude, I don't care. Like, by then I'd gotten some drugs in me, so I was like, you can draw on my face for all you, I don't care. They came in to take some x-rays, and if you want to throw up the first x-ray, that'd be cool. Oh, I forgot, I'm gonna have pictures. They're not graphic. I mean, this is the most graphic of them all. So I had one of those black nurses that, you know, needs their own sitcom, you know, the ones that come up to you and just sort of give you a hip and, baby! And she was wonderful, but here you can see, hang on. That's the path of the blade. And I mean, a circular saw removes material, so you can see there's a chunk of, you know, bone missing and fragments everywhere. But so she's, you know, oh, gotta take your x-rays, and, you know, so my girlfriend had to leave, you know, because I had the lead vest and, you know, whatnot. So I'm doped up and I'm screaming things like, yeah, I wouldn't want you to be sterile. And I mean, I have a low filter at the best of times, and then, so anyway, so got my x-rays, and my parents showed up around 3 o'clock in the morning. They had made a 3.5-hour trip from Indianapolis in 2.5 hours, and Dad said he didn't. Oh, it was so funny. My mom is like the most conservative person like you've ever met. Like, focus on the family movies. Like, that's the conservative thing. And I remember my sister comes in and she's just giggling, you know, because I'm sitting there in pain, and she, you know, waits for my mom to leave, and she's like, Mom was swearing the whole way. So that was, like, it was kind of funny. But anyway, so they got me the surgery and stabilized it all. They, you know, they couldn't do the real surgery there because they don't have the facilities and they're not specialists. It was just the emergency to stabilize it. And we went to a hotel, and my parents went and bought me some pajamas and t-shirts at a Meijer, and I spent a fitful night with this giant foam like armrest to keep my arm elevated, and it was, I mean, it's kind of cool. It's like got straps on it, but so then I woke up the next morning. We're gonna go home, and oh yeah, there's my cast. I had a Moby Dick on my hand for a while. Like, it looked like a sperm whale. It was huge. But anyway, so we went home, and before we went home, we went to Culver's, and I remember, you know, I'm thinking to myself, here I am, and I hate it. I don't have anything appropriate to wear in public, except for, I mean, I have my pajamas and a t-shirt and I look like white trash, you know. Am I right, ladies? You know, showing up in pajamas when, you know, never mind. So we went home and I got the real surgery. If you want to go to the next one. And I got 2 plates in my hands on my bones and 2 pins in my pinky. And it was a 3-hour surgery. And I remember they told me, bring music because, you know, we don't want you to be bored beforehand. So I'm high on morphine again and rocking out to Bad Romance and entertaining all of the nurses and dancing so much my hand falls off the operating table. And so eventually they just put me under so I could be dealt with. So I got the surgery. A semester later, I mean, you can go to the next one. This is what my hand sort of looked like after. You can see it's a big old gash. It was like a 10 centimeter long gash and like 2 centimeters wide and 2 centimeters deep. So yeah. So a semester worth of therapy later, I can pretty much use my hand. I can't do 2 anymore, unfortunately. So basically, I feel like I ought to have a moral of the story, and I think the moral is your kindergarten teachers are wrong. Sharing is awful. Never share anything. It's such a bad idea. Without further ado, we're going to do a song from our sophomore musical, How to Lose Your Hand Without Really Trying. And this is Brotherhood of Man.